Trump? Well, we know he brags about a whole lot of things, including the amount of money that he gives to charity. But an exhaustive Washington Post investigation shows he may be promising a lot, but he's delivering a whole lot less. The Post reporter will be joining us. Then we take a look at the Trump campaign and how his uphill battle to win may have just become a lot steeper hill to climb. Also, are we finally seeing a tipping point when it comes to gun control? Well, believe it or not, the answer could be, just might be, yes. Evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you for joining us this Thursday night. And we begin tonight with yet another scheme by the Donald. By now, everybody knows about the lawsuits and the fraud allegations against Trump University. One of those suits, it's been brought by the New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman. Now, here's how the AG describes the place.
Defense in a court of law.
Which specific laws did he break?
In New York, we have laws against business fraud. We have laws against consumer fraud. We have a law against running an illegal, unlicensed university. This never was a university. The fraud started with the name of the organization. And you can't just go around saying, this is the George Stephanopoulos Law Firm Hospital University without actually qualifying and registering. So it was really a fraud from beginning to end.
Well, the newest alleged shady deal we're hearing about is Trump Institute. The Times says that Trump lent his name to this place, then promised to handpick the teachers, also promised to get personally involved in helping make people rich. Paper says he did none of those things. Hear how the Times describes how the place was run. The Institute was run by a couple who had run afoul of regulators in dozens of states and had been dogged by accusations of deceptive business practices and fraud for decades. Similar complaints soon emerged about the Trump Institute. Extensive portions of the materials that students received after paying their seminar fees, supposedly containing Trump's special wisdom, had been plagiarized from an obscure real estate manual published a full decade earlier. And the Post, well, they've been investigating Trump's charitable giving, or in this case, lack of giving. Here's part of what it found. Since the first day of his presidential campaign, Donald Trump also said that he gave more than $102 million to charity in the past 5 years. To back up the claim, Trump's campaign compiled a list of his contributions, more than 4,800 of them, filling 93 pages. But in that massive list, one thing was missing. Not a single one of the donations was actually a personal gift of Trump's own money. Instead, according again to the Washington Post analysis, many of the gifts that Trump cited to prove his generosity were in fact free rounds of golf, given away by his courses for charity auctions and raffles. Post reporter David Farenhold, he co-wrote that piece and others about Trump, and he joins us now. First off, the one thing I get from the piece is that Trump wants this both ways. He wants credit and he wants notoriety that he's being magnanimous and is giving money to charities. But on the flip side, he doesn't want any disclosure to be attached to it to actually prove where the money went. I know that's a broad statement, but that's pretty much what you found, right?
Well, yeah, what you're seeing is Trump has made a lot of promises over the years that he's going to give the proceeds of one thing or another to charity. He makes those promises in public, makes them very prominently, and then the follow-up is either non-existent or it's invisible. He doesn't want people to sort of pry into whether he made good on those promises he made.
Obviously, in May, there was a lot of attention as to, hey, what about that million you promised to the vets? And he finally did it. But well before that, this has been a long tradition of making very public claims that he's doing projects specifically for the benefit where 100 cents in the dollar are going to charities. And then when you reach out to those charities, those that would cooperate with you guys, you find not so much.
Right, so what we're looking for here is evidence that Trump has been giving away the proceeds of things like The Celebrity Apprentice, his last book, Crippled America, his first book, The Art of the Deal, and the only public evidence we have of what he's giving away is the Donald J. Trump Foundation. This is this nonprofit 501c3 that Trump set up in the 80s to give his money away. But if you look at it now, he hasn't actually given that foundation any of his own money since 2008. So Trump says, well, that's because I'm giving my money away to charities directly, privately, personally. That's what I've been looking for. Is there anything out there that shows that he really has been giving those personal gifts that don't show up in the foundation's books? And as you've seen, what I found is I only found one gift that was from him to another charity that didn't go through the foundation between 2008 and this May. And even that one, I'm not convinced it's real. It may be a bookkeeping error.
Well, let's go through a couple of examples and start with Trump the game here. People may forget it, but it was a Monopoly type game with obviously Trump being the face on it. And I know through reporting, some of the people said it was like it was nailed to the shelves. It wasn't selling. He, in fact, made public here that everything that he'd sell from that game, it would all go to charity. You dug a little bit and you didn't find it.
Back in the 80s, when he's selling The Art of the Deal, his first book, which he also promised the proceeds to charity, and Trump the board game, he said, I'm going to give it to charity, and he named some specific causes he was going to give to. He said multiple sclerosis, AIDS, the homeless, and Vietnam veterans. And if you look back at that era, he actually did give some substantial amount of money to his personal foundation to give away. But then you look, okay, well, what are the endpoints? What are the charities that actually got that money after it went through Trump's foundation? And what we found was that less than 10% of the money that was given away actually went to those big, noble causes that Trump talked about in public. The rest went to things like his daughter's ballet school, his son's elementary school, sort of Manhattan galas, opera balls, art balls, that sort of thing. He used it to sort of subsidize his social life and also to help his kids' schools far more than he used it to help these causes he talked about in public.
You know, some of these, I can't imagine anybody would have the chutzpah to try it. Gaddafi's tent, for folks from our neck of the woods who remember this, in Westchester, it was hugely controversial at the time that you'd have, you know, the Libyan strongman come here and he's going to actually open up his doors and he's going to let him put a tent there. And he seemed to try and assuage the concerns by saying, don't you worry, every dollar I make from this thing, it's all going to charity. Even then he got heat for it, but it turns out you can't find the money went anywhere.
So Trump in 2009 gave space at this sort of estate he has in Westchester to Gaddafi to put his tent. Gaddafi liked to stay in a tent when he went places. So at 2009, Trump's original excuse was, oh, I didn't know this was happening. I didn't know we made this deal. I didn't know Gaddafi was involved. 2 years later, when Gaddafi is being toppled as part of the Arab Spring, and Gaddafi's sort of back in the news as a bad guy, Trump says, oh, yeah, I gave that money to charity. But if you look at his foundation from 2009 or 2011, he gave no money at all. So if he gave that money to charity, he didn't give it through his foundation. And as I said, I haven't found evidence that he gave it anyway. And also, this year, when people have been asking him about Gaddafi in the context of this campaign, it's sort of like Trump has forgotten that he said he'd give the money to charity, because now he says, oh, I made a lot of money off Gaddafi. He doesn't talk about it as money for charity, it was money for himself.
I mean, you mentioned some of the charities that were promised, all noble, but Walter Reed, for people who know, that's where our soldiers go for recuperation. They go for treatment here. These are guys hurt on the battlefield that they're taking care of. He promised, was it Trump vodka, David, that all the proceeds were going to be going to Walter Reed? What'd you find out there?
Trump super premium vodka, and he said he would give a portion of the proceeds to Walter Reed. No, it's not just regular vodka; it's super premium vodka. He said he would give a portion of the proceeds to Walter Reed, the Walter Reed Society. First, he tried to give it to Mothers Against Drunk Driving, but they don't accept donations raised from alcohol sales. So then he chose the Walter Reed Society. There's some fuzzy memory at the Walter Reed Society. They got a few $100, but certainly Trump got more publicity value out of making that promise than the Walter Reed Society actually got in cash at the end.
And Trump University, of course, wasn't the whole premise that, hey, I'm not making a dime off of this. And you also explained it with Apprentice, too, that he wanted to convey the message, A, that I'm doing all these projects. Look at me, I'm a public figure. I got TV shows, I got all these products, but I don't need the money. In fact, I'm giving it all to charity. Trump University was another example of that, obviously in the headlines for a lot of reasons now. Where did the money that was directed to him, where did you find it actually went?
Well, in Trump University, it's pretty clear. The New York Attorney General estimates Trump made about $5 million off Trump University, and he had said at the time, well, I'm giving it all to charity. But Trump's own lawyers now admit that none of that money went to charity, and their explanation is it was all eaten up by legal fees because there's been these big fraud cases brought against Trump University. The Apprentice, Trump said in 2004 he was getting $2.5 million. He was going to give it all to charity. It seemed like a few months later on the same Howard Stern show, Trump seemed like he took it back, although he was not very clear. There's no evidence that he's given $2.5 million to charity since then. The thing about this, as you sort of referenced, there's two sides to Trump's personality in public. One side is the tycoon, the guy who's so rich he doesn't need money. You know, he says, money's no use to me, I have so much. On the other hand, he's always out there as a salesman trying to get more money from the public, to get less rich people to send him their money, which is kind of a weird dissonance. And so his explanation has always been, well, I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it for charity. That's why I know it seems weird that a super rich guy would be asking you, giving you the hard sell for your money, but it's really for a good cause.
Finally, this would all be cleared up if we just saw the tax returns, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
Anyway, great report, David. I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, Trump is not doing a whole lot of charitable giving, as you've seen, and he's also taking a whole lot of heat on the campaign trail, and most of it actually coming from fellow Republicans.